Hey guys, and welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield, and I'm homeschooling mama to a second grader and a fourth grader, which I can officially say because we just finished our first week of school this year. And I am here to tell you all about how it went. Spoiler alert, it was great. We had a really good first week, you guys. So normally if you've been watching my channel, you know that I like to do monthly updates for you guys, but I always start off the school year with the first week update for you guys. So the next update you'll see after this will be my video for August. We started July 21st, so we'll have 2 weeks in July and then 4 weeks in August that I will provide a big monthly update on next. So like I said, everything actually went really well this week, you guys. This was probably our best first week of school we've had in a while. You guys, I feel like we finally clicked. We finally figured everything out that we like. We're figuring out our homeschooling style. We're figuring out which curriculums work for us. I'm letting go of some things too. I will say we did have to make one change. There's always got to be a change. It's not a first week of school without a change being made, but I'll tell you guys all about it in this video, what we swapped out and what we're bringing in and why we decided to make the change. But everything else, fit like a glove this week, you guys. It went so well. We even added in an additional unit for my oldest daughter that I'll talk to you all about in this video. But before we get into the curriculum stuff, let's talk about our first day of school traditions, because it's just really fun for me to share because it just brings me so much joy and it brings the girls a lot of joy too. So our first day of school, the girls woke up bright and early. They were like, Mom, it's the first day of school, all excited. So the first thing we always do is they get to pick out their first day of school outfit. I let them pick whatever they want. I don't have any bearing on it. And then we have this cute little easel that it's like a felt board. I'm able to put in different letters, and it always says like Charlotte's first day of second grade and then the date, and then Emery's first day of fourth grade and the date. And then I have them take little photos on our front stoop. We've been doing it since the first day they went to school. And then after that, we hop in the car. I actually don't make a special breakfast for first day of school because I cook breakfast for them every day. It's not that special. It's actually more special for us to go out, and we have a local coffee shop near us that we like to go to on our first day of school. They do a really fun summer reading program as well for the girls, and they get these little bookmarks from the coffee shop. They write down, I think it's 10 books, and I initial each of them, and if they fill it out and they have the parent initial it, they get to bring it in for a free scoop of ice cream or a donut. And so they both had filled out their bookmarks. So we brought those in. They got a free donut. They got some hot chocolate. I got a cappuccino. I brought my husband home a dirty chai latte. That's his favorite. And we sat there and just enjoyed each other. We talked about what we were looking forward to this school year. And also something new I brought in this year is I have them fill out these first day of school interview sheets, and then I go ahead and I print out on my computer a picture of their first day of school. So that's the felt board that I was talking about. So that's my youngest. And then this is my oldest. And then I have a free printable for the last day of school. I'll link the website down below that I got these off of. They're free. It's a last day of school interview sheet. And then that way we get to compare how you've changed from the first day of school to the last. I think that's just such a fun thing to be able to do at the end of the school year. We finished up breakfast and then got home and hopped right into the schoolroom. And this year I tried something new that might become a new tradition, where I got the girls these little gift bags, I guess. We have these baskets that have their names on them, and I filled them with some goodies. Most of it is stuff they needed. I was going to get them anyways, but I made it a first day of school gift, and I got them a few things that were kind of wants. I got each of them a book, a nature themed t-shirt that they really liked from an Etsy shop. I got them a chocolate frog from Harry Potter, but then they also needed a watercolor notebook, watercolor brushes. I actually talk and share about all that in a video. I'll link it down below, where I also share a first or a summer back to school haul for you guys. So if you want to see specifically what I got them, I'll link that down below for you guys to go check that out. And then after that, we hopped right into curriculum. We just went and hit the ground running, and it was awesome. So speaking of, let's get into what we did for curriculum this week. Now, as a note, caveat, however you want to say it, I had gotten a few comments on my Instagram channel as well as some comments here on YouTube about people saying, oh my gosh, it seems like you're doing so much. How do you manage it all? You seem like, superwoman. Like, it wasn't like anything negative, but they were like, girl, how are you doing all this? And I realized that it might look a lot on paper, but in reality, I can absolutely verify that it's not, because we were able to complete it all this week and it was not a lot. On average, we were spending about 3 hours a day on school. And I think for a second and a fourth grader, that's pretty reasonable and pragmatic, I guess. You know, my oldest is getting older. She's doing more and more expectations. But we do a lot of things together, but ultimately I still am doing a separate math program for each of the girls and then a separate language arts program for them. And then on top of that, they are doing independent subjects, or like logic, handwriting, things like that, which I've decided to actually loop those types of things, which I'm going to share in an updated video about how our schedule is going, how we're doing our loop schedules. We've never really done a true loop schedule before, so this is new this year and it's actually working out really well. So I'm going to share that in a video in the future, here in a few weeks. Once we've really solidified how we want that schedule to look in that loop, I'll go ahead and film that for you guys and share it with you soon. So in the past, if you've seen any of my update videos, I normally start with my youngest daughter's individual subjects, and then I go to my oldest daughter's, and then I go into group subjects. I actually think I'm going to change things around, and I'm going to do it based on how our schedule is working and how we do it through the day. So I'm actually going to start with group subjects for you guys first, and then we'll move into my youngest daughter's individual subjects and then my oldest daughter's individual subjects. So the first thing we do when we sit down to the table, and we sit down around 9 a.m. in the morning, we do what we call is morning time, and that consists of just a quick 5-minute morning circle is what I call it. We sit together, hold hands, we do some breath work to calm ourselves because everybody's a little excited and we need to kind of focus in on, hey, we're about to do school, so that really helps center us a little bit. And then after that, we jump into our calendar work, which we do every day, and this is called the monthly planner. They have this large size. They also have a smaller size if you want to check it out. I'll link it down below. But we started this at the beginning of this calendar year in January, and it's mostly supposed to be nature focused. We're observing something in nature and drawing about it in the calendar box for that day. But we actually took a break from doing this during the summer, and so you'll see the first couple of weeks of July are blank, but since we only had 2 more weeks left in July, I went ahead and just told them, instead of doing something nature focused for our observations, why don't you write down and journal like a picture of what you're most excited for this day, or what's already happened, if it's already happened. So this is like my oldest daughter. So the first day she was excited for painting because they were going to do it in the afternoon, doing her North Carolina unit, which is the new unit. I'm going to explain that in a second. Typing, because she started typing and she loves typing, you guys. And then we watched Indiana Jones today. This is our last day of the week, and they got to watch Indiana Jones because we learned about archaeologists. So this is what they did. So it's more of a journal for the next 2 weeks. And then next month for August, we'll try and pick something more nature focused, because that's the whole point of this, is to kind of do a little bit of a mini nature study, whether it's watching the moon phases or how our tree is changing over the spring and fall, or, or tracking the temperature and weather. It's meant to be more nature and focused, but also it really helps my kids do their calendar skills. Specifically my youngest, who's a second grader, want to really hone those, but also my oldest. If I'm not sharing with her what day it is the week, or what the date is or month, she's not aware of what day it is, right? So having this as a daily reminder of like what day it is, like, I don't know if you remembered, but when we were in school, at least when I was, on the blackboard in chalk would be the date. It'd be like Monday, September 24th, 19, whatever it was when I went to school. I'm that old. It had a 19 in front of it. So the point is that I recognize, even as an older individual, after you've learned your calendar skills, it's good to have a daily reminder of what the date is, so you know where you are in time and space, if we're being honest. So this has been going really well, as usual, of course. And then so we did that daily. We did our morning circle daily, and then 3 times per week we are going to be doing Spanish, which we did this week, and we're doing it through Homeschool Languages. The first lesson we did, we actually didn't do a lesson in here. We used the phrase flashcards, and we had completed the first 2 units of this program last year, and we've got 2 more units to complete this year. So we made it halfway through the program, and I was like, hey, rather than jumping into the lesson, let's go over the phrases that you guys learned last year and make sure we remember all of them in the first lesson. And I was wholly impressed that they did. They were actually really good at recalling what the vocabulary was. And I think even though we didn't do any formal lessons this summer, I think part of the reason they were able to is because we used it so much in our daily lives. We talk to each other in Spanish when we can, when we're out and about or at home or things like that. Probably the most common phrases that I use with my kids is ven aquí, come here, espera, wait, because they are always raring to go. And then I always say te quiero, te amo mucho, I love you a lot, those kind of things. So there's a lot of things that we just use in our common day-to-day, work. And I think that's the best way to really ingrain a new language into your child's brain and even into my brain, right? So that went really well. And then we completed the first 2 lessons of Unit 3, which is, I think the theme is activities around the house, I think. Hold on, let me make sure that's what it's called. So Unit 3 is activities around the house, and this is the stuff they're going to be learning. And it went really well, you guys. I was really impressed that they had retained so much, but also that the first 2 lessons, they jumped right in. It was like no time had passed at all. Okay, next, after we finish up morning time, we hop into Build Your Library Level 1. And we just follow the schedule as is, straight up. If it's Monday, we're just running through the Monday schedule. The only thing we are not doing out of here is the science. So typically what that looks like is we jump into history first, which this week we started Story of the World Volume 1, because again, as a caveat, I am using the older version of this. The newer one uses History Quest Ancient Times as the spine. And I get asked a lot on Instagram in here, why didn't I go with History Quest? Is there something wrong with it? Absolutely not. There is nothing wrong with History Quest. The only reason I did Story of the World is because I owned it already. I had purchased it like 2 or 3 years ago on a whim, and I really like the way it's written. It's very narrative, but History Quest sample looks amazing too. It looks very similarly written. So I think regardless of which one you go with, you're gonna have a good time. So don't stress. The reason I just used Story of the World is because I had it on hand. That's really it. I just didn't want to spend money on another spine because I was trying to be mindful of budget. And if you do want to use Story of the World over History Quest, as long as you purchase the level that you want, you can go into the Facebook group and say, hey guys, I can share proof of purchase. Can somebody send me the old version? I'll even do it for you. If you want to email me, I'll send you the old version if you can share proof of purchase, because Emily Cook allows that, because she doesn't retain the old versions. It would be too much for her repository in the cloud and all that stuff to maintain all of that. So she only has the new version available to send to people at this point, basically, is the long and the short of it. But no reason other than I just had it on hand. But I will tell you, the first chapter went great. So this week was all about understanding what history is and what archaeology is. And the way that she introduces history is in such a relatable way to the child. She basically puts it in terms of, hey, how do you know how many pounds you were when you were born? If you had curly hair or not, if you had any hair at all when you were born. And then it says, well, maybe you could ask your mom or your dad, right? Okay, well, how do you find out how old or how big your mom was when she was born and what color eyes she had when she was born? And all these things. And they're like, oh, we'll ask her mom, your grandmother, and then so on and so forth. And it goes back, and it's like, okay, what if your great-great-grandmother isn't around to tell you about your great-great-grandmother? And it's like, how could you find out? Well, maybe she wrote a letter to her friend Eloise, who lived a couple states away, and said, hey, this morning I gave birth to Mary Barfield, and da-da-da-da, she was 8 pounds, 10 ounces or whatever. And maybe you could use that. And so she then dives into how historians study history through letters, through monuments, through artifacts, where archaeologists come in. How do we find the artifacts? How do people drop things behind? They just put it in such a relatable way that my kids were like, oh my gosh, this makes total sense. I really like the way this is written. Like I'm really happy with that first chapter so far. So we dove into that. We also read, for the second half of the week, Archaeologists Dig for Clues. I am so glad I ended up purchasing this one because my girls really liked it. And it was a really great way of explaining what archaeologists do in a very, oh gosh, it's just so well done. Illustrations, everything. They even asked her, like, is this a library book? I was like, no, it isn't. They were like, yes, we get to keep it. So very good way of learning all about archaeologists. Along with that, I'm just sharing one of the things we did this week, but one of the things we did for hands-on, which was also supposed to be our art for the week, is we did cave painting. So we got some, I think this is an Aldi bag. And so they used their fingers, and we looked at the Lascaux caves in, I think it's France. It's like the oldest ones I think we found so far, in still good condition. And so they used those for inspiration. There's a sun, there's animals, all the things, handprints and stuff like that. This was a really fun activity for them to do. So that's mostly like what we did for the history. Then after that, we would jump into reading the read aloud literature. For this week, it was The Tale of Despero, and we read through, this is split into different books, sections, you know what I'm saying. I think there are 4 books. We read the first book, so we read that much. And it's actually really easy reading. It says a couple chapters a day, but like a chapter is 2 pages. It's one of those kind of books. Really good so far. The girls are really liking it. I have forewarned them that there is some like, maybe some gruesome bits. Like I think his tail gets cut off, I think is what I read somewhere. So I just let them know there's some physical things that happen, and they're like, okay. And I was like, I'm just prepping you just so we don't get upset and stuff like that. They're like, does he die? And I was like, I don't think he does, because it's the tale of Despero. If he dies, that would be kind of a short tale and no pun intended. But I was like, I just think that you have to be prepared. There are some like tougher things in here, but I think it's worth reading, and it is. The girls are really enjoying the story. It's very good. And so we've been doing the copy work and narration from that in the girls in their individual copy work and narration books. I have these on my Etsy shop. So like here, well, my daughter accidentally did her cursive copy work under her drawing narration, and then she wrote this on the back. But you see that here, like, so here's Despero and Princess P, and then what she wrote about it. That was the copy work. He was, alas, a mouse deeply in love. So it's been really good. The girls are really liking the copy work and the narrations. I mean, it's going great. So we are doing that. I've been asked, hey, are you guys still doing the copy work and narration since you're doing separate language arts with the programs with the girls? I was like, yeah, it doesn't take that, but like 5 extra minutes. And I think copy work and narration consistently is not a bad thing. So if it ever became too much, we probably would stop, but it was just super easy to fit in the literature section. And then we also discussed the vocabulary. I normally do the vocabulary first before we read, so that they can point out the vocabulary and what we're reading. They're like, oh, I remember we learned what egregious meant. And I was like, yes. And then they also have discussion questions for after the fact that we go through and we kind of talk. Some of it's comprehension, some of it's more Socratic discussion methods. So I really enjoy that. After that, we normally are popping into poetry, which we read about 3 or 4 different poems from the book of nature poetry, which the girls really liked. Also included in this program is poetry memorization. And for this week, we were meant to memorize this poem. And it's actually a really good poem, you guys. I love the last line. I love not man the less, but nature more. It's such a good poem, you guys. It's from Childe Harold's Pilgrimage by Lord Byron. But long and the short of it, after the second day, the girls and I kind of discussed it, and we decided we're not going to do poetry memorization with this, but they want to do recitation with it. So it's more learning how to read it, articulate, stand up. They do, like today on the last day, they stood up and they presented it and spoke aloud, and it's really helping with their reading aloud skills, but their presentation skills. But also it made them really focus on the poem because they were having to articulate it so hard. I remember my daughter looked up, the first line is, there is a pleasure in the pathless woods. And it was like the 3rd day she had read it, and she looked up at me and she goes, I get it. Like going off the beaten path. I was like, yes, oh my gosh, you got it. And it was just because we were doing the recitation, you know, because she was actually slowing down and taking her time with the poem. Reading it 5 times over the week allowed her to do that. And so I think recitation is going to be a really good tool moving through the poetry for the rest of the school year. So really pumped about that. The girls are really enjoying the poetry from here. And last but not least, this isn't actually scheduled. This book isn't, in Story of the World. She actually has a full other Greek mythology book scheduled, but we already had this one on hand, a children's introduction to Greek mythology. And I just really liked how it read, and the illustrations and how it explains mythology and the different myths and everything. It just really, like, I was like, I think that's going to go well for my kids. And it did. So the way I'm splitting this up is I'm just reading one section once a week. And so this is what we're going to read next, The Titan Children. What we read this week was all about who's who and what's what. What is a myth? Why tell myths? I think that's so important to explain what myths are and why we tell them. That really helped them get it. But we talked about Mother Earth, Gaia, marrying the sky, Uranus, and them having their Titan children, and then how the children were fighting, and then Zeus came in and released all the children that Uranus had eaten, or Cronus had eaten, his father had eaten. He ate his babies. But my daughter goes, he ate his kids? I was like, remember, this isn't real? She goes, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. But they were like, why did he eat his children? Like, this is so weird. But it's actually going really well, shockingly. But I think it's because of this book that we decided to use. This is a really good one, you guys. So if you're trying to find a good Greek mythology book for your elementary students, do this one. And then after we would finish up Build Your Library, we would move into our last group subject, which is science, which is where sadly we had to make a change, you guys. And if you've been following my channel, even if it's just been recently for the past month or two, you know how excited I was about Bookshark Science-y. I was really pumped about this, you guys. I was in a phase of life where I was like, okay, we're gonna go with easy, open and go. Still has the literature, it's literature based. It still has experiments, it has the experiment kit. It's got an easy, open and go, hold your hand instructor guide. I felt like that's what I absolutely needed, especially with all the health issues I've been having lately. And the problem is I got exactly what I needed, but I found out that it wasn't exactly what we wanted or was best for our learning style, sadly. So if you haven't been following me for any amount of time, I'm just going to give you the quickest recap. If you haven't, you know that our first 2 years of school, we did Blossom and Roots, level 0 and 1 science, which is space, and then earth science. That's what we did our first 2 years of homeschooling, and it went fabulously. It was literally the best. Last year, our 3rd year of homeschooling, we decided to go off the beaten path and just try something new. And it blew up in our face. It did not go well. We were thankfully able to salvage the last couple of months of last year's schooling by utilizing For the Love of Homeschooling science units, which is very comparable. I realize the things that we like about Blossom and Root is kind of similar to the things that we like about For the Love of Homeschooling. And so that's why I think it works so well for us, but I couldn't bring in a level of Blossom and Root, or at least in my mind I couldn't, with only like 3 months left of the school year to go last year. I was like, I'd rather just do these For the Love of Homeschooling units, which went great, and then start afresh the next year. And I was thinking maybe I'll do the For the Love of Homeschooling this year, or I could do Blossom and Root. I was kind of wavering back and forth, but then I was thinking I really need to reduce my cortisol levels and my stress levels with my autoimmune diseases and things that are going on right now. And I thought the best way to do that would be to bring in an open and go science. And I had been eyeing Bookshark for 2 years. I was like, this is the time. If I'm gonna do level C, I gotta do it now because it's for ages 7 to 9, and my kids are gonna be 7 and 9 this year. So I was like, perfect age range, everything. So that's why I went with this. And it was everything I thought it was gonna be. It really is. It was sold as is. Like it markets itself perfectly. The thing is though, without having purchased it and using it myself, I wouldn't have known whether it was a good fit or not for us. Sadly, it wasn't. I knew within the first 2 days, and I could feel it with my children. It's just so different from Blossom and Root. Blossom and Root and For the Love of Homeschooling are very similar in that they're multi-sensory. You're learning through books. For the Love of Homeschooling doesn't include videos, but you can add them on very easily. They actually complement, the two programs complement each other very well, by the way. It's a multi-sensory approach. You also have a lot of extra picture books. If you're a picture book basket type of people, they have hands-on arts and crafts projects. There's lots of different experiments. They have the initial main ideas. So there's a lot of discussion that's happening at the beginning of the lessons. And then with Bookshark, it is very much, you read a few pages from the books, and the books are great, by the way. They're perfect age appropriate. They've got a lot of good content. They're really engaging. Like, they're great books, don't get me wrong, you guys. But the way that the program works doesn't work for us because it truly is just, you read a few pages and then you sit down and you regurgitate that information that you just read in the pages onto the activity sheets. And that doesn't work for my kids. They weren't really retaining or understanding what was happening. On top of that, there was a little competition going on between my girls because she was like, well, you're writing the answer faster than I am. And it was like, it created some fights, you guys. I've never seen that kind of thing happen in our homeschool. So I was like, oh, this is not good. We should stop. And so I really sat with it. And I tried to push through last year, even when I could tell early on in our science that it wasn't going well, when I could have easily made a switch back to Blossom and Root or something. I was like, nope, I'm gonna try and make it work. And I refuse to do that again this year. And so you're going to go, Mary, you only did 2 lessons. You tell immediately it wasn't for you and you're switching. That seems a little crazy, but that's the fact. I am now 4 years into our homeschooling. I know what works for us and what doesn't. And I'm no longer just hanging around, just trying to use a curriculum because I want to save face on YouTube or because I spent all this money on it, which I did, you guys, man, I spent money on it. It's the most I probably spent on a curriculum. I'm so upset with myself. But the reality is I think Bookshark is a great program. It just wasn't great for us. And I know a lot of families have so much success for us, but it just doesn't suit the way that we like to learn. So sadly, you guys know I wanted it to work. I had such high hopes for it. I was so excited about it. And then it just fell flat. And that's okay. It's okay. I needed to know. I needed to try it out, and we did. And we realized it's not the right fit for us. And that's okay. And I also am empowering myself to say it's not the right fit. Let's move to something that is. So I had something already printed out, ready to go, something we already know we love. And I talked to the girls. And we are now doing Blossom and Root Level 2, Wonders of the Kingdom, or Wonders of the Plant and Fungi Kingdom. We did our first wonder this week, the second half of this week, and it went so well, you guys. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. It was night and day. The girls were laughing. They were excited. They enjoyed it. They were able to articulate. They were having conversations back and forth about the materials because we were learning about basically photosynthesis, what botany is. It was just kind of a quick introduction to, plants. And I already had purchased the spine because, again, this was actually Blossom and Root was our first original plan for this current year. Back in January, I had made the decision I was going to do that. And then I kind of got swept up and tried some other things, and it's okay. We like to try other things. It's fine. But this was my original plan, so I had it ready to go, you guys. I had the spine that we decided to do is the Secret World of Plants. There's 3 different spines you can pick from. If you guys want me to do a full flip through of this, I can. Just let me know of the program. We chose this one because it seemed the most age appropriate for us, and it is. The pages are beautiful in it. It's got some real life photographs. We learned that plants have pores that they breathe in and out of, carbon dioxide and O2 and all that stuff. So this was good. And then I grabbed one of the books from the library that was in the additional picture books you could bring in, and it was Living Sunlight, How Plants Bring the Earth to Life. Y'all, this book is amazing. This would be one I would purchase. This is a goodie. It explains photosynthesis, how we are sun's energy because the sun gives plants energies, plants gives animals and us energy, etc., etc. It's such a good book, you guys. Oh my gosh, the kids loved it. So we did that. We had really good discussions with the main points. And then we did an experiment where we took 2 leaves from our plant out front, a maple tree that we have, and we put them in water. And we put one in the dark and we put one in the windowsill in the light. And about an hour or 2 later, we went and checked them. And underneath the leaf that was in the light, air bubbles had formed because the leaf was doing photosynthesis and releasing oxygen. The one that we put in the dark in our laundry room, no oxygen. And the girls were like, whoa, that is so cool. I was like, I know, right? You guys, I got to stop trying to fight this. I just need to do Blossom and Root. It works for us. It was the first thing that we did our first school year, and it's what works the best for us. And then afterwards, the girls filled out their narration notebooking, and they did a really good job of photosynthesis and then doing a narration. And then this is my youngest daughter, Charlotte. She did a little plan and explained how it all worked, and then she gave me a narration and I wrote it down for her. But it was the right call. I felt very self-conscious and very nervous, and I felt very disappointed and shameful about the fact that I was making this switch because I had put all my eggs in that basket with Bookshark, and I hated that because I really like Bookshark. I wanted to work for us. It just doesn't, unfortunately. But if you're using Bookshark, I want you to understand I don't think it's a bad program. It just is different how we like to learn our science. That's all it is. I think it's a great program if you need an open and go program, but still has literature, still has videos, still has like experiments and stuff like that. I think it's a great program. It just, the style doesn't quite jive with how we like to learn. That's all, truly. So I don't want you to take away from this that Bookshark is bad, because it is not. Just Blossom and Root is better for us. That's it. That's all it is. I've also been asked by some people, specifically to do a video on how I do blossom and root science. So I could maybe incorporate that into a flip through. Maybe that would make sense. Maybe I make one video where I do a flip through, but also explain how I do a lesson. Because I think for a lot of people, blossom and root seems super overwhelming. It is not. I do it super simple. I was actually talking to one of my homeschool friends. You'll know who you are because she watches my channel. And she told me that she was one of those people that gets overwhelmed by blossom and root science. But then I explained to her how I broke it down in a step-by-step how I do a lesson. She goes, wait, that is way more like accessible. So she goes, you should definitely tell people how you do that on the internet. So if that is something you guys want to know, let me know. Leave an emoji, leave a plant emoji down in the comments, and I'll go ahead and create that video if that would be helpful to you guys, because I really do simplify it. I make it pretty straightforward. It's not that hard. So, or at least the way I do it, it's not. But I'm sad to say goodbye to Bookshark. Now I have to go sell it because I just, oh gosh. But I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did Bookshark. I needed to do it because if I didn't do it, I would always wonder what if I should have done it, you know, and I'll keep trying to do it in the future. But now I know. And now I know what is good for us. I know that blossom and root works really well for us. So we'll probably just keep on keeping on with that. I'm also probably gonna bring in, for the love of homeschooling, I have the blossom and bulbs unit, and I think they would pair so lovely with this. And I was actually one of the units I was thinking about doing this year. So I think I'm gonna pair them together because they really do work together, you guys. So if I end up doing that, I'll share with you how I end up making that work and how it goes. So stay tuned for all of that. All right, next, let's talk about my youngest daughter. She is now in 2nd grade. She is still 6 years old and will be 6 until August 24th. That's her birthday. She'll turn 7 then. So she is a very young 2nd grader. She is doing great with Math with Confidence. Literally, there's nothing else to say here. You guys know it's a well-oiled machine. It goes well. We are, how far are we in? She's on week 14 of the program. So not quite halfway, but a little bit more than a third of the way through, and she's really liking it. It's going well. Nothing more to say. I won't even bore you with any more details there. Next, let's talk about her language arts. She is doing Blossom and Root Level 2, which is Fantastic Journeys and Perilous Quests. So this week we were focusing on Tall Tales and specifically the literary device of hyperbole. And so they basically gave us the option to pick from a couple different tall tales, and I just so happened to have John Henry by Julius Lester in my home because I had picked it up at a thrift store one day. It looked like a really good one and I wanted to snag it. And it really was. It has really great illustrations. It was a really good story. Just an FYI, if you do read this, he does end up passing away at the end of the story. And she was like, I really liked it till that point. Why didn't they kill him? And I was like, well, baby, it's about his life, and it, you know, your life does end. And she was still a little incensed about that. She goes, I was going to give it a 10 out of 10. Now I'm giving it a 5 out of 10 because he died at the end. I was like, oh, okay. So it is a good story. It's just be prepared for that. She wasn't like upset crying. She was just like, why would they do that to him? Like, I was so happy about the story, and then it would just you know, but at the end of the story, they do memorialize him. Like, they have him on a train, and like there's a cross country, like people are honoring him. So it does really bring the death is important, I think, but that's not the point. The point is that this story really focused on tall tales, being hyperbolic, hyperbole. She really understands it. So this was a good one for this week. Another thing I wanted to mention was digging into the student guide. I wanted to highlight something I'm really liking is how the copy work. So here's an example of the copy work she did from this week. This, I think, was taken from Thunder Rose. If you had done that, this would have been taken from the literature. I could have taken a selection from John Henry, typed it up and glued it over it, which is what she recommends. But I was like, let's just do this copy work. It's fine. And so I like that it's really solid copy work. Like, she's writing 2 lines here, but 2, I like that it incorporates grammar into it. So this was all about capitalizations at the beginning of sentences, and then identifying the question marks at the end of sentences to finish the thought, but that it's creating questioning sentences versus a statement sentence. So I just really like how the copy work, one, that there's copy work because we like copy work here. It's one of those things we like from Charlotte Mason, but I also like that there's a gentle grammar being introduced here. And it's just in a really, like, a relatable way that makes sense to her brain. She's like, oh yeah, I see that. So I really like that. We are really enjoying the word lists. So this is like more the phonics, but we do this not just for phonics. So we went over G and like the G making the soft J versus the G hard G sound. And so that was what we were doing today. Bonus words for reading were 2-syllable words. So that was good to go over specifically for reading. I didn't use those for spelling, but I was going to say we also use these for spelling. And actually what I've done is I brought these back in. I used these with my oldest daughter when she was younger. I love this set. We've had this for 4 years now. Shockingly still have most of the parts. So there's a magnetic whiteboard, and then the letters can stick to it or you can write on it. But this is like what you would consider more of a Montessori set. Why can't I say that word? Montessori. I think they like to do wooden, but this is magnetic, and it's great because then I give her a bunch of words and I'm say, okay, can you spell gum? And she has to figure out the words from it. And the letters from it. And it's a more fun hands-on way to do spelling for her rather than just having her write it out. And this is going really well for her. But it's also helping with reading, right? So we've been really enjoying that from Blossom and Root. The next thing we've been doing is essentially 2 more pages a day from Daily 6th Trait Writing Grade 1 from Evan Moore. This is going very well as well. We are on week 2 of section 3. Yeah, so we're about halfway through this program now. We started this about 2 months, a month before the end of first grade, because I was like, I just want there to be a little bit something more for structure for writing for her. And this really speaks to her brain. I have grade 2 waiting in the wings. So whenever we finish that, we'll move on to that. So that went really well this week as well. And last thing I was going to talk about with you guys is she has some independent things that she's doing on her own, which we have now turned into more of a loop schedule. And again, I'll talk about that in another video. I want to get a few weeks into the school year to solidify and make sure we're doing what makes the most sense for us, and then share that with you guys. And I'll explain more about our scheduling because I'm doing more reverse planning this year, which seems to be working really well for us. But once I get that all solidified, probably sometime in August, I'll do a video on it and share it with you. But one of the things that we did drop from her independent subject is Mind Benders Level 3. It's technically meant for grades 3 to 6, and she's able to do the problems, but she wants to do them with me because they are a little bit more challenging. And the whole point of having her do that on her own was for it to be independent and on her own. So it's a little too challenging for her to do it on her own. So I've actually decided to pause that and drop it, and she's okay with that. She's still working through word ladders, but on her own. But we decided to pause Mind Benders. We'll bring it in next year, I think, because then she'll be in 3rd grade and it'll probably be more appropriate for her to be able to do independently. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about my oldest, Emery. She just turned 9 last week. No, 2 weeks ago, sorry. And so she is pumped to be in 4th grade, you guys. So pumped that she actually was able to start 4th grade math with confidence this week. If you've been hanging around for our channel for any amount of time, you know that math has been one of those things that we've kind of always been a little bit behind because our first year of schooling it was tough trying to find a program that really worked for her. Thankfully, halfway through 1st grade, we landed with math with confidence. It was exactly what she needed, but we were always kind of like working from behind, if that makes sense. This year, we officially started the first week with 1st grade math. We did finish like the last 2 lessons with 3rd grade math at the beginning of this week, but then the second half of the week, we did 4th grade. So we are officially on task. We are officially on schedule, something like that. And honestly, it was just review for multiplication, so it's fine. It was all stuff that she knew anyways. So that went really well. Again, nothing major to say here, just excited to announce that we are finally in 4th grade math. Now for language arts, she is doing Hearth and Story Level 3. She is doing everything from this grade bundle except the grammar. If you don't know, we are doing Beowulf's grammar. I just thought this would be honestly more fun. There's nothing wrong with Hearth and Story's grammar. It's just more straightforward. This is just more hands-on and engaging, and she really likes Beowulf. He's cool. We like the dog. So this week, she completed her first book in the breakfast cereal. She decided to pick the Zoe and Sassafras. This is book 2, Monsters and Mold. The first one is Dragons and Marshmallows, and she finished the first story, which means she got to do the lessons that coincide with the first book, which we were way ahead on schedule on that, but I just let her keep going. So like one of them was drawing a setting map. So this is what she drew: the magical forest, Zoe's house, the barn, all that good stuff. She had to write a cast of characters, write up who all the characters were, what changed, like this is a really good program. We really like breakfast cereal, and she really likes it too. So now she is working. She's already halfway through book 2. So I think we're going to blow through breakfast cereal. I think it also helped that she was in control of picking the series, and it's a series she really enjoys. If you guys have not read Zoe and Sassafras, if you have a science-minded kid specifically, because it's all around experiments and things like that, but there's a little fantastical, magical element to it, you should read Zoe and Sassafras. They're really good. So that's going really well. And in spelling, that's going great. She just finished her 3rd list, so 3rd week, but 3rd list this week, and she got 100 on it. She's doing great. So as of so far, the traditional method of here's a spelling list, you get introduced to it on Monday, you work through it the whole week with different ways of doing it, which is how the program works through with you. And then on Friday, you do the test. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but it works for her. So, and in writing's going really well. I was not sure about this because she's never done a formal writing, you guys. So that was a little nerve-wracking for me. She's doing great with it and responding really well and creating great writing. The thing that was cool this week is that she got introduced to the journal prompts that will be brought up throughout the year occasionally, and she'll then write in her journal. And so she did her first writing prompt. I don't want to share it because it's like, I don't know, it's personal, but there you go. See, she wrote the whole page and then she drew a picture. Like, she wrote the whole page, you guys. So that I feel like is pretty good considering we had just been doing Charlotte Mason copywork and narration up before this grade. So I think she's doing really well with it. She's really responding well to the way the writing is done. Then also with poetry, last but not least from Hearth and Story, Poetry in Tune. Y'all, so fun this week. She got to read this poem by Langston Hughes, April Rain Song, and then we compared it, because if you're not familiar with Hearth and Story, the grade 3 poetry is all about comparing a poem to a music selection. We compared it to Singing in the Rain, and she got to watch it on YouTube and all that stuff, and she was like, this is a really fun song. I was like, I know, it's a classic. She goes, was this me when you were born? I was like, no, earlier. I wasn't. I'm not that old. Oh my gosh. So Hearth and Story is still going really great this week, you guys. No complaints. We truly do love it. Like, I feel very fortunate that our language arts programs are going so well with both my kids, and the fact that I chose to do 2 different language arts programs for them, there was just like, it was like that unicorn thing where you're like, I feel like this is what they need, and it worked out perfectly, you guys. So I feel very grateful that it's going so well. And last but not least, in grammar, Emery's just working through nouns, common nouns right now, and it's going really great. She's doing, oh wait, that's not her workbook. Her workbook's over here. I've got my teacher card over here. So this is her workbook. This week she went through, what is it? She had to write like common nouns and proper nouns and things like that. So that's just, it's going really well. Yeah, we're loving it. She did a little cut and paste thing. What is a noun? And then she lifts the flap, and then she put the person, place, thing, or idea. It's totally jiving with her mind. So it's working really great for Beowulf's grammar. Okay, so last but not least, before hopping into a few individual units that I'm only doing with my oldest daughter, I want to talk about her loop schedule. Again, I'm going to share what that looks like in that video that I do with my youngest daughter for you guys and how our schedule is looking. But I did want to mention that one of the items, kind of similar to my youngest daughter, one of the items that she was doing on her own, she requested that we still continue it. She didn't want to not do it, but she's like, can I do it with you? And that is the word ladders. Now, it's meant for grades 2 through 3. And it's not that she's incapable of doing it, but some of the stuff is kind of confusing to her because she just doesn't understand. Maybe like one of them was, for example, the hint was perspiration, and it was like add 1 letter from SWAT, and she was like, what is perspiration? Like, it's just things that she hasn't learned yet. And if I'm doing it next to her, I can be like, you know, when you get wet because you're really hot, she's like, oh, sweat. I'm like, exactly. And then she's able to do it. So it's just one of those things that it's not that she's incapable of doing it. It just sometimes she needs references. Like, it's like she needs reference to stuff sometimes. She doesn't know what perspiration is. You know what I mean? That's kind of a tough one. There's a few other in here that are pretty like, yeah, I'm kind of like, man, I don't even know that one. Like, I've had to look in the back. I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about, you guys. So I'm like, okay, that's one we can do together. So that is the addition that we add on to our language arts together. I've been asked by some, am I having her do anything independent yet for language arts? And I'm not, because honestly, she's asked me not to. She wants to do everything with me. She's like, I don't want to do it by myself. And honestly, she's in 4th grade. She's young for a 4th grader too on top of it. So I'm like, why push her to be super independent quite yet? However, I think probably I would like with the loop schedule, I'm introducing some independence there. I think at a certain point, I might be able to do some of the language arts components independently, but she also likes the discussion factor and doing it with me. And I think there's a lot of value in that. So I'm not throwing her independent completely yet in some things, but we are doing introducing some things independently, you know, with the loop schedule and all that. All right, so there are 2 units that I am doing with my daughter this year, only with her, just because they're age appropriate for her specifically. And I'm doing them in the span over the entire year. And it's just like, we'll do it once a week, essentially, is what it works out to be. So one of them was a last minute ad that I didn't share. I think I shared maybe on my Instagram, like a brief story about it. So this should be pretty new news, I think. With me recently now posting more on Instagram, I've forgotten what I've shared and what I haven't shared. This is getting a little confusing for me. I got to learn how to manage that better. But one of the things that we have brought in is from Core Knowledge, and it's the story of North Carolina. This is a 4th grade level program. This is the reader. I printed it out because it's free. Why not? And also, I don't like looking at things like this on the screen. So this I printed out, but also I plan on doing this with my youngest daughter when she's in 4th grade. The teacher guide I have on the computer though. I am using that on the computer. Look at me being tech savvy. But the reason, I'm sorry for the glare, I'm gonna flip it like this. Here's the table of contents. The reason I've decided to do this is because in the state of North Carolina, not that we have to do what they do, but I kind of like what they do. They have students in public schools learn about North Carolina history in 4th grade and then again in 8th grade. And I think that's actually a really solid idea, especially because we just went through a whole year last year of US American history, so it's fresh in our brain. And then I can be like, hey, this is what was happening specifically in North Carolina during those things we learned about last year. So I think that's going to be great. So yeah, again, the reason I went ahead and printed out the reader is because, again, my youngest daughter is going to do this with me in her 4th grade year. The other thing I printed out was the activity pages, and then I did print out the first couple of assessments. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them or not. I only printed out the first 2 chapters. They're more meant to be like tests. I probably won't treat it like a test. It'll just be like hey, we've just finished this chapter. Let's go through. What do you remember? I'm not going to grade it or anything. I just think it'll be nice to see how she's retaining the information. We did the first lesson this week and it went really well. You guys, I'm thoroughly impressed with Core Knowledge. It's one of those programs that I kind of was like initially overwhelmed at when I first looked at it. I was like, whoa, I don't even know how to manage this. But the more and more I look at it, I'm like, oh, I get how people do this now, because it's not really meant for homeschoolers. It's written more towards like public schools. But there is a way to do it as a homeschooler. And I'm like, there's online resources. We were learning about what's it called, bluegrass, and they linked a video on YouTube that we were able to watch. There are so many resources. There's primary source documents. They even have free books online. I'm thoroughly impressed with Core Knowledge. I don't ever think I'll go fully to it individually for my kids, only because I really want to keep my kids together. And I feel like in order to utilize Core Knowledge, and maybe I'm wrong, if you use it, let me know. But I feel like the way to utilize it properly is to have them each in their own grades, because they do multi-streamed history. It's not like chronological where you do ancients one year, medieval the next, world, modern, early modern history, and then modern history. It's not like that. It's like you'll hit the Aztecs with, introducing, medieval Renaissance time period. Like they mix and match a little bit. They're more unit based. And I think that works if you started that from the beginning, but I really kind of like the chronological historical path and just focusing on one history per year. I don't know, if you use Core Knowledge, let me know. So basic, long story short, I like Build Your Library. That's the long and the short of it. I like how it does it. But I really think I might seriously consider them for, one, additional units like this, right? We can deepen a topic maybe with one of their units, or 2, bringing it in when the girls are older, specifically high school or even maybe middle school. I don't know. I really am impressed with Core Knowledge and what they offer, and the fact that it's free. Oh my gosh, amazing. And if you're okay printing, you can print, or they do have at a very good price, you can purchase the booklets printed, but you don't have to. So it's a really economical option too. So I'm gonna stop rambling. I really like this. This unit went really well, and I'm really liking how it all works and the questions and discussions. It's really good, you guys. I really like core knowledge. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna get over it. I'm gonna move on. Can you tell we have had a really good week? Again, minus the sadness about science. It's been a really good week, and there was happiness with science too, because we figured out what we wanted to do, right? What works for us. So last but not least, we did a lesson of a child's guide to mindfulness and calm, and it was so good. This is, again, just with my oldest daughter. It includes, she has a mindfulness journal, which I'm not going to share the insides because it's like private journal kind of stuff, and then a gratitude journal, which she did an entry in. We did some yoga. We put on some calm nature sounds. We had the diffuser going, and we read this week's book is Follow Your Breath, a first book of mindfulness. The book selection for this unit is amazing. So we're going to do this once to twice a week. It's all talking about, what does mindfulness mean? Ooh, come on. Sorry. I'm not a professional if you can't tell. But so it included that we could have done, I should say, or here, this is the sun salutation she has you do if you want to do that to start off your lessons. It just kind of gets you moving. And then this is the lesson we did this week. I'm just going to share this one lesson to show you guys. So this is kind of how it works. So these are the things you can do to start your day. I did this at the beginning of the lesson. We did the read aloud, discussion questions, vocabulary work, and then the gratitude and the mindfulness journal. It was really good. It was really good. And I think talking about mindfulness right now at this age when emotions are really starting to get big and learning how to regulate our emotions, not dismissing them, we want to feel them, but also letting them float away like clouds. Like emotions are meant to be felt, but then to be released, right? It's going to be really good, I think. And she was really excited about it too. So that's the most important thing. If she's engaged, let's do it. You know what I mean? So y'all, it was such a good week. Such a good first week of school. I have high hopes for the rest of the school year. It was like a well-oiled machine. We were done within 3 hours every day. I mean, who could ask for less or more? Who could ask for more? Who could ask for more? I am terrible with phrases. I really need to stop, you guys. Okay, so that's all I got to say. If you guys have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, to leave them down in the comments. I'm so sorry this is another long one. I will leave timestamps down below. If you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. If you want to check us out on Instagram, we are at your one room schoolhouse as well. We do more behind the scenes, daily stuff over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.